So in this session, we are going to go and deploy our website of Angular inside AWS. And we'll be creating a new Scratch project of Angular from Angular. And then we would be deploying it inside our S3 bucket, encrypting the data, deploying it to our website or a domain that we have created. You can also automate it using the C names and all, but we would be creating it inside the root level domain, and we would be managing it via Route 53 and CloudFront over S3 bucket endpoint. In the same, I'll also be talking a few things about Angular, because how do you go and create the website? And this would right now be just creating the website over CDN or cloud distribution network or distributed network, whatever way you want to call it, content distributed network or content delivery network, whatever way. But at the end of the day, it would be distributed over CDN. The service we would be using would be CloudFront. So these are the things that we have to do. The only difficult part into this is that so many services are actually involved in the whole process that you might have some confusion while doing it. And the beauty about this service is that you miss a point and things won't work. Now, it will not error out, basically. It will just not work. So if you miss at any point of time, nothing works out for you. So the way we start is we will, so ideally now what will happen inside your organizations, at least you would be having a brand new Angular project. You would be creating a distribution package, which we also call as the bundle. People call it as bundle, EAR, archive, war, jar, whatever way you call it. But at the end of the day, these are the files that have to be used if in case you want to create either a web server, a app server, a API, a endpoint, whatever name you call it. But you need certain files to go and manage the complete thing. So for that, we would be using Angular inside our class, basically. So first we will start with Angular. You can expand it with React. In our DevOps class, we would be expanding it with our Python also, and we would be expanding it with our PHP also, and with a Java package also. So all of them we are going to do anyways. So let's get started. First thing that I want to do is, because this process will take a lot of time, is the DNS management, basically. So if I do not do this, the class will end and I cannot show something live to you. So first process, creating a hosted zone inside AWS, because whole management is going to happen by that. My domain is via GoDaddy. So I'll be just taking the domain over here, creating a domain, and let's call it as a website domain. It is a public hosted zone, obviously. I click on create hosted zone. The important thing to do over here is copy these addresses as it is and just go and place it inside your GoDaddy's account. So this, remember to remove the dot. Those who were in the Route 53 class earlier would have seen this and this. And let's just hope that this would get resolved pretty soon. So I consent and click on continue. Now, the easiest way that I tell you all to test is if it is working or not. First of all, have a look at this and just go and create a dummy record initially. So let's say if this is the domain, I will just forward you to 10, 10, 10, 10. I will keep the TTL as 60 seconds and I will click on create records. If everything is good, in some time, if I go and just ping my website, which is this over here. If I go and ping this, basically, it should give me 10.10.10.10. Right now, it's not giving me anything because the DNS mapping or the routings would be happening as we speak. And that's the reason why we started off with this thing initially, first part. So in sometimes my hosted zone should be there. Also, I would be needing something as a certificate or ACM or Amazon Certificate Manager. Now, in the previous class, we had already created the certificates inside North Virginia. Once we reach here in some time, we will see if we want to go and create a new one or we can use the existing one. I think I already had one which I created in the previous class, which we did on July 30, 2022. So in case you are interested in seeing that how did we do all of this, you might want to go and have a look at the earlier recordings, which is present, or in the class you have already seen. So ACM service is good to use. Route 53 would be taking some time in propagation. The easiest way to see is if I go and do a ping on top of it, it should not give me a known host. Rather, it should give me the address, which is 10.10.10.10. So considering these two things are done, which were the two most basic things, let's get started with the things that are expected out of us after this assignment or complete thing is done. So basically what I have to do is I have to go and create a website. Now, please note, this is real-time website. So unlike others where I would be directly pointing it to a IP address, there it might happen immediately because you are pointing to a IP address. I am not pointing to a IP. I am pointing to the real domain names, and real domain names will take time in propagation. If they don't, I mean, if it doesn't work out, if it takes more time, I will also show you by the IP address, but I want to keep it as real as possible. So what I have to do is I have to create a website. For that, I need to create an Angular website, first of all. Okay. This you call it as an Angular website. At the end of the day, if you just go and create an Angular website, the thing that I am interested in is a Angular bundle. This would be step number one for us. Second would be I need to go and buy a domain, which I have already done from GoDaddy. Third thing, I have to do the DNS routing, for which I need route 53, which if you have seen, I have already done it over here, my DNS routing. I will have to come back to this again because my website will have to point to some actual location. That part I will do in some time after all the steps are done, but this is step number 3. Step number 4, I need to keep my website inside some storage location. So at the end of the day, a website or a web server is nothing but a collection of certain files which are kept inside some storage. Now, the best way to keep a website would always be a EC2 server and a EBS or a Elastic Block Store. If you go and do that, basically, in that case, your website will be served pretty fast. But why not EC2 and EBS? The reason is my servers are actually placed inside a specific location or inside a specific region, and that too inside a specific availability zone inside a region. I obviously don't want to do that because it increases the latency of my websites. So for that reason, I would be using CDNs or Cloud Distribution Networks. CDN. CDN inside AWS is a service known as CloudFront. But CDNs itself, if you just go and very quickly have a look at CDNs, so if you go to any of the images of CDN, you will realize that at the end of the day, all the CDNs are in the end taking the data from a centralized location, which is also known as the origin servers. These end ones are known as the edge servers. So you also have to create something as a origin server. Origin server would be nothing but a central storage. And in our case, our central storage is our S3. So what I will have to do next over here is I will also have to go and create a S3 bucket, which will actually be saving my website data. And this, remember, S3 would be a website endpoint. So inside S3, we have again done this. So I won't go and dig deep into that. We understand how it works. So, but we have to go and create S3. After S3 is done, my CDN's origin servers have to point to my S3 website endpoint. So for that, I would be needing something as a CDN, but a CDN inside AWS is known as a CloudFront. Now, CloudFront, if I have created over here, CloudFront, whenever you are opening a website, the routing would be done via route 53 forwarded to CloudFront, which in turn would be getting the data from S3. But all of this, you obviously want it to happen over HTTPS or secured protocol. So for that, you need HTTPS certificates. For that, I will be using ACM or Amazon Certificate Manager. And in the end, because my website data is saved inside S3, encryption at rest, by which I mean KMS, by which I mean key management service. So for that, I will also need to have encryption or KMS so that the data or encryption at rest is created. Last If I want to go and monitor the traffic, or obviously I want to monitor how much data is actually being used, I would be working on my service of AWS CloudWatch. So these are the services of AWS, actually 2 to 8, total of 7 services that you would be working on to create a domain inside AWS. And Angular website anyhow would be a new bundle that you would be creating inside your account. So these are the services that we have to work on. We will try following them in a sequence so as to avoid confusion. But if in case they will ask you, and this is a very general question, by the way, this was asked yesterday in the interviews, and the question was, I need to create a website inside AWS. Just tell me the name of the services that are required. And your answer would be Route 53, S3, CloudFront, ACM, KMS, CloudWatch. That's it. If they ask you, and they will certainly ask you after this, what is the complete process that you followed? That is when you are going to tell them about the things that we are going to discuss now. The whole thing is pretty short, actually, if you understand what has to be done. So let's get started. First thing first. Okay, any questions if anyone has still here in the process that we are going to follow? Please don't ask me about what these services are, because if you are asking me, means you were not part of the previous class. So we would try to avoid that right now. You can be seated in the new batch and you can ask about that. Those of you who were already in the previous batch, if you have a problem understanding the name of the services, you might want to ask me now.
Ankit, what is meant by bundle?
Bundle, remember in the class I told APK, zip, jar, that is a bundle. That is the bundle. There I would have also told you something as distribution bundle, right? That is what you are going to see now in Angular. Bundle is nothing but the actual code which you want to deploy. Now, if you have a file, do you want to deploy the complete 400 MB package over there? No, right? 10 MB, 5 MB, 2 MB, that is the bundle, not the whole 500 MB things. Okay?
Okay.
Cool. Perfect. So I would recommend that, means anyhow, the video would be there. You should take a screen grab of this. And if in case they ask you first part, how do you create a user interface or a website inside AWS? This is the service that you can talk about. Alternatively, uh, let me just tell you a few things. You could have used S3 also. You could have EC2 also. You could have used your ECS also. You could have used your EKS also, or you could have used your Elastic Beanstalk over here. Any of the services you can use. CloudFront, if you want, you can take it. If you don't want, this is an optional thing anyhow. We need it because we want to decrease latencies. But latencies, we only want to decrease if we are actually looking into an infrastructure that is spanned across multiple geographies. My customers are in India. So in that case, I do not need even CloudFront. And CloudFront, by the way, is an expensive thing. ACM, you might say it is optional because this is the actual certificates, but any standard website will at least always need ACM. So let's not say that it is an optional thing. Let's say it is mandatory only. KMS, again, might say it is optional, but then again, obviously the data that you have is stored. You want it to be encrypted. So for that reason, you will choose KMS. CloudWatch, because you want to monitor the actual traffic or the route that is there inside your infrastructure of AWS. So for that reason, you can use CloudWatch. You can use something as Datadog. You can use something as ELK. You can use something as Grafana. You can use any of the tools. I am preferring using CloudWatch because it is an inbuilt service inside AWS itself. So these are the things over here. Now let's get started with our Angular. By the way, okay, first thing first, let's go and ping. It again says that I cannot resolve it, but that is pretty much understood. Again, we have seen last time that domain propagation does take a lot of time. That's fine. At least we can get started with our Angular bundle as of now. So let's start with step number 1, first of all. So this process, Angular website, I have to go and create a bundle, or I need to go and create a website inside Angular and ensure it is working. Now, from your perspective, honestly, it doesn't bother you much because the Angular developers or the UI developers or the front-end developers would have already created this website. Your only job is to have the bundle with you. But then again, let's see, if you want to go and create, how will you go and do that? So first thing first, what you will do is you will just go and search for Angular, this part here, and get started over here. And over here, you will see, Angular is a product by Google. It would have told you everything using Stack Blitz itself. So honestly, you don't have to do anything over here. It would automatically create the whole runtime of Angular for you in that moment itself. But obviously, I want to do it inside my local. For that reason, I will just go and click on set up a local environment. And I just have to go and install Angular step number 1, which is this. And then I have to go and just do ng new my app or whatever my app name is. So what I will do is, first of all, let's navigate to my desktop. Let's create a folder over here like Angular code hyphen Angular. Let's go inside that code hyphen Angular and run this command, and let's name this as my website. If you do this, Angular is going to take care of everything. Do you want to add routing? Yes. I want CSS. And Angular is itself going to go and create a dummy code for you. This code is also known as the boilerplate code. So all the basic thing required inside Angular code automatically will get installed now. Pay attention to this thing. Okay. Just go back in the video when I had said pay attention to this. It would have said something as installing via npm. Remember that word npm stands for Node Package Manager. Very extensively, we will be using it inside our Docker and inside our Kubernetes. So npm stands for Node Package Manager. Over here, you can have a look at it, Node Package Manager, basically. Similar to this, if you are a Python developer, you have pip, Python installation package. So any package or library you need inside Node.js, you can get it via npm over here, or you can get it via pip over here. Anyways, if my code is all done, let's navigate to my folder. I do ls, I go to my website, and let's open up my website over here. Let's open up the code. This is my code. And if you see, everything required is already present over here. I have the code over here. I have whatever environment files I have. I have the index.html file. All the things are present over here automatically. I don't have to do anything on top of it. It is also giving me something as a package.json, which is saying that if in case you need to start, why don't you go and do a ng serve? So that's what we are going to do right now. We are just going to go and do a ng serve over here. And I don't want to send my data to Google, so I am giving n over there. This is anyhow encrypted, doesn't create much of a difference. If you do it, even better for you, because it helps them in maintaining Angular. But from my world, I'm just keeping it like that. It is telling me that project has already started. Just go and hit this address, localhost port number 4200. So if I just go and hit that over here, you see my website is already running. So this basically is my website. Now, first of all, the proof that this indeed is my website only. So let's go and just see this app is running code over here. Search app is running. If whatever I said is true, then this thing, if I change over here, this should get reflected over here. Okay, and let's take a proof of it. If this is true, I should get modified. Let's change it. I just did a Control S or a save over here. For MacBooks, it's Command S. The moment I did this, you see it was automatically loaded over here. This, by the way, is known as a hot reload feature inside websites. Nothing for you to know because it is more of the developer things. But then again, if you want to know this, the moment you make a change over here, it automatically gets reflected and your website automatically reloads. This thing is known as hot reload. So this is your app is running and you can inject the new version of it at runtime. Okay. Now, again, this if is in capital. Let's make it small over here. I just go and make a F over here. I save it and straight away it gets reflected over here. So this basically is my simple Angular website. Now, Angular people will go and extensively work on this. They will create a whole bundle for you and they will create the code for you. But in my world, I am pretty happy with this website itself. So this basically is my code of AngularJS. And this is the code that if everything is good, should get deployed to my website. So in some time, if I go and do a ping of ankitsaxena.xyz, I should actually see this page coming up. Rather, let's make it somewhat better. Let's say, just don't modify something very badly in Angular or else it will error out. This is the sample Angular page. Let's keep it like this. Let's go to the browser and check. Yes, it says that I am good with it. So now the next thing is I will have to go. This is what we did, by the way, ngserv. If you go to the documentation, it will tell you. And if you go down, it will also tell you how you can go and build the complete bundle package for you. But nonetheless, I am going to tell that to you now. Before I go there, pay attention to one thing. The only folders I have here is a VS Code, which is of Visual Studio Code, .angular, which is a Angular caching thing, node modules, which has the libraries and SRC. Pay attention, I don't have any distribution bundle present over here. Okay, if you need to give the distribution bundle, you will have to go and build this thing. Now, those of you who have done this earlier, the concept is just creating a Java file doesn't do anything. You need to create a class file. C doesn't do anything. You need to compile it. Similarly, your app doesn't do anything. Compile it to a APK. iOS compile it to a APP. Similarly, Angular, you need to go and compile and build a runtime package out of it. And how to do that? For that, you will just go and do a ng build. I give --prod and --aot. --prod I give because I want to build it for the production environment. Now, go and read about Angular if you want to. That will tell you more about what is prod and what is AOT. But in a nutshell, prod will only download or create the files required in this bundle, no unnecessary files. AOT basically will also go and check if any code bugs are present inside that specific Angular code. This is not a testing framework, but nonetheless, it will just go and do some basic test and it will go and tell if there is any technical issue inside your code. If everything is done, it will go and build, it will go and do a sealing, and then it will go and create a bundle. Pay attention. Now I see a new folder by the name of dist. Okay, this dist has a index.html, which is your actual runtime. It has a main file, polyfill file, runtime, and a style sheet. Now, basically, there are two ways to run your Angular code. Either you go and run the complete thing and you do a build that you don't want to do because the size is pretty huge. What you rather do is you just go take the distribution bundle, copy the whole things inside your storage, which in our case will be S3, and that's it. Your Angular website will automatically start to run. It is as simple as that. So let's go into that. So what I will do is first thing. So let's go back to our documentation and see what I wanted to do. Angular website bundle is done. Domain inside GoDaddy. If you remember, I already bought it over here, right? Now, if you want to buy, you can always go and buy the domain. You can go and do that as well. This part is done. Route 53 is already done. By the way, if I go and again ping my website, it still says unknown host, but that is fine because I am inside the broadband at the moment. It might give me that error, no issues. Route 53 is done. Domain I had already bought. Next part is to get my S3 bucket up. S3 bucket is my website. So what I will do is, let's go to my S3 here and go and create a bucket. I believe I already have a bucket by that name over here. So let's go and empty and delete it. The reason is I want to keep the bucket by the same name because elsewise it becomes a problem for me to understand. So if the website and bucket are of the same name, it helps you in understanding what if something went wrong or not. So what I will do is I will go and create a bucket and my bucket name would be same as my domain name. This, I want to unblock all the public access and encryption. If you want, you can enable it and that will tell you about the KMS service that is part of this KMS over here. Okay. So if you want, that can also be done over here. I'm not doing it because it's a public website, so I don't need encryption, at least as of now. If this all is done, just go and click on create bucket. This is my website. The important part over here is S3 website, remember, has to go and work with your website. So for that, you need to go and create it as a website. So for that, you have to go to properties, scroll down, static website hosting, click on edit, enable, give the index page this, and click on save changes. If everything is done, if now anyone opens up your website over here, no, it should give you something. Right now, it doesn't give you anything because your S3 doesn't have any data only as it is. So what I will do is I will just go and upload the data inside my S3 bucket. Now, ideally, what I do is I do a AWS S3 sync. If I do that, it will automatically go and copy the data. But my laptop has the data of my office environment, so I can't make a connection with this. However, in the live assignment in some 10 to 15 minutes, I will show you that way also. But for now, what I will have to do is I will have to go navigate to my website, distribution, take all the files from here and place it inside my bucket. This part, obviously, I want to go and make it a public bucket, but I can't because it says bucket owner has enforced a setting. So for that, we will have to go back to our permission tab. We will have to go and give the ownership and enable the ACL. Okay, this is first part. Second thing, my permissions. My website, I want anyone to go and view it because it's a public website. So for that reason, I will go and do a save changes here. Next, now if I go to my objects, copy the whole things over here as it is, permissions, make it grant public read access and click on upload. Let's wait for some time. Now, if everything is done, if I go back and refresh my website, I should see my website coming up over here. Once again, the reason why it is coming is because my properties tab, if I go to bucket endpoint and I hit this, I will see my website coming up. And this is also telling me the same details that I had given earlier. Pay attention over here. My bucket is not having the complete code. The size of the bucket is hardly 12, 190, some 200, 230, and 240 kilobytes tops. That is the size of the website or the bucket as of now. This anyhow, you can also see by going to metrics and it will tell you that yes, the size of the bucket right now is pretty less, which is this only. Okay, anyways, going back over here, this is my bucket. This is my website. The problem with my website is that it says it is not secured, which obviously I do not like. So for that reason, I will have to go and secure my website. But at least as of now, this part of S3 is also done. This part is done, this is done, this is done, and this is done. Now, the only thing left is CloudFront and then mapping it via Route 53. But before I go there, let's just go and ping again, and it still says unknown host, but that is fine. It takes time. Let's leave it. So next part is to go into CloudFront. Now for CloudFront, I will have to go and open up my service of CloudFront over here. And this was my website and I'll just go and delete it because I already had a domain over there. I'll start from the beginning. I'll take the name of my website, which is this. Paste it. The reason why I paste it is because if I don't do no, it will also copy HTTP, which I don't want. So remove this, remove these symbols and just copy this as it is. And CloudFront, paste it, redirect HTTP to HTTPS, obviously. Domain name, alternate domain name is the name of my website, which is this. Certificates I already have inside ACM or Amazon Certificate Manager. I can do this. And then I believe it's all done. Create distribution. Now, if entire story that I told you is true, in some time, this distribution should start giving me certain things. I'm also putting it in the chat windows, just in case if anyone wants to see that. So in some time, this domain should be up and running, though again, this is still up and running. This is S3. Remember, everything is different. This is S3. S3 is working, but it is working. It is not secure. So for that reason, I have to create CloudFront. And CloudFront will take time because CloudFront by now, the status is deploying. Because it is deploying, so it will take some time. Let it take its own time and it will automatically redirect HTTP to HTTPS. Let it take its own time while it is into deploying state. By the time this deployment is happening, we can always go and have a look at our CloudWatch to understand how much traffic is actually flowing inside our network. This is this part over here, CloudWatch. Okay, so CloudWatch, if you want to see, you can always go to your metrics over here. You can always go inside your S3 over here. And this basically will tell you how much is your website actually being used. Right now, the total bucket size on average is 166. And you have these many number of objects inside your bucket. There are multiple other parameters also which can be seen. So that is it. This also is the new console of your CloudWatch. You can go and see whatever parameter you are interested in. Anyways, let's just go and refresh this. Second time. Fine. This one is fine. Angular part we have done. Route 53, we will need it now actually. So let me show you one interesting thing actually. Okay, let's go and hit EC2 straight away. And I'll just go and create a server inside EC2. Okay, so let's call it as testing-server and let's take a Ubuntu 22 and a T3A dot small instance or a micro instance should be good. Key pair and launch. The reason is, if you see over here, now if I am doing a ping, it says unknown host. The same thing I will try to do it from my AWS Ubuntu 22 instance. How this and connect this, make a connection. And the same thing I will try to do it from here. Here you see it gives me 10, 10, 10, 10. Here you see it does not give me. Here it says unknown host. So my local machine in Bangalore right now is saying I cannot resolve. But my remote machine in the cloud, which is in Mumbai, is saying that I will forward you to 10, 10, 10, 10. Any one of you very quickly, why do I see this? One machine is not giving me anything. One machine is saying 10, 10, 10, 10. Why?
VPC setup.
Yes, and caching. Caching is the important word. Okay, so if this is all true, then in that case, if I go and ping, it says 10, 10, 10, 10. Now, if my stories are all true, it means if I go back to my route 53, and if I just go and change it to, let's say, 11, 11, 11, 11, 1 minute, and if I just save it over here, if the stories are all true, it should say 11, 11, 11, 11. It still doesn't say. It is still saying 10, 10, 10, 10. The reason is, as of now, it is again cached. Will take time of approximately 60 seconds. After that, this also will start to say 11, 11, 11, 11. Now, the problem is, this is still saying unknown host. This is saying 10, 10, 10, 10, or now, as you see, it changed to 11, 11, 11, 11. So in less than 60 seconds, or at the max in 60 seconds, it will go and change it to that thing. So that is the problem with your DNS actually. One machine might say something, one machine might say something else. And my reason I knew already because I am on broadband, and broadband actually caches a lot of details. So in my broadband, I might still not be able to see, but over here, I might be able to see my actual website. So what I mean by that is, means just remember this when you are working on this assignment, it might take unrealistic time in propagation as well. Okay. Anyways, next part, my CloudFront is there. It is enabled, which means if I go to my distribution now, you will see my website comes up. It says resources. Here it says this is the sample Angular page. I'm also putting it on the chat window just in case anyone wants to go and have a look at it. Now, the problem with this thing is, if I have to give my domain, will I say Ankit Saxena.xyz or will I say D1J49ZSCZ WTC5.cloudfront.net? Not this, obviously, right? So the only thing left now is go to your Route 53 and tell Route 53 that, see, I will have to go and change. I will forward you to a alias name where I will go and forward you to a distribution where the distribution is this, and click on save. And that's pretty much it. Now, by the way, your S3 endpoint is also working. Your CloudFront distribution is also working. And if someone opens up your website, this over here, this will also start to work. I am just putting it on the chat window just in case if anyone wants to open it. The thing is, in your things, it might open. So if I go and do a curl over here, no, it might go and give me something. Like you see, no, it is forwarding CloudFront. And the same command, if I go and do it inside my local, it still says I cannot resolve the website. So if any one of you has opened up the website now, you might have seen it might be working for you. But for me, it is still not working. The reason is it is actually caching the whole data. Okay. Can any one of you confirm if the website is working or not very quickly? Working, right? Good. So in my cloud server, for multiple of you working, nice. So for my cloud server, it says moved. For my local machine, it still says unknown host. And for you, it says working. That's the beauty of CDNs. That's the beauty of DNS. But eventually, if I am patient enough, in another 2 to 3 hours, my website would be working completely. This, by the way, in a nutshell, has been how you go and deploy your website of Angular inside AWS using the services. Now, what did we do? We created an Angular bundle. We went and bought the domain from GoDaddy. We did the mapping in Route 53. We created the bundle saved inside S3, CDNs via CloudFront, data encryption in transit via ACM or Amazon Certificate Manager, encryption at rest via KMS, and finally this via CloudWatch. This, in a nutshell, is how you go and create your Angular website inside AWS. This, by the way, is using S3. The same thing I will tell you using EC2 and load balancers also. The same thing I will tell you using your ECS also. The same thing inside our Kubernetes or EKS also. And the same thing using your Lambda also. And the same thing using your other services of AWS, the primary of ones, which will be inside your compute, Elastic Beanstalk, Lambda, Lightsail, EC2, and ECS, and EKS, and S3. This example will remain the same in all the classes. Okay. So what I would suggest is go and have a quick practice of this, of how to deploy your Angular codes inside AWS.